What's going on YouTube? Like the title of the video said, I'm going to be talking about in this video what changed in my life to go from me getting literally arrested to buying one of my dream cars within, 12 to 14 months. So it started back when I was about 19, 20 years old. And I, at the time, was selling cars as a car salesman, kind of half-assing it, showing up to work late, just kind of clocking in my hours, getting my little pay, selling what I could, clocking out, going home. At the time, I was living on my own. I had a girlfriend at the time. She was staying with me, not living with me, living with me, not living with me. At the same time, I'm also, smoking a lot of weed, drinking all the time, going out all the time, hanging out with people that weren't doing good things at all, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not going to get into the details, but not good people. A lot of illegal things, and basically, I just kind of got wrapped up in this lifestyle of it being cool to do these type of things and be around these type of people, guns, weed, um, other types of drugs, drinking on the week, not even on the weekends, going out 4 or 5 times a week, overdoing it. Meanwhile, I'm the only one out of these people that actually have a job and actually am like doing something quote unquote productive. But all these like habits that I had started to like creep into my daily life were killing my progress at that job. And I really remembering it now, I wasn't even like working out that much at the time. And the gym has been my life for like since I was 14 years old. And this time period of like 6 months, 8 months, I was so involved with the wrong side of life. I had, no intention of going to the gym. My body was lacking. I was so frail. Like, look at me now. I'm very filled out and healthy looking. I can probably pop a picture up, but I was so skinny and just didn't look healthy for what I was like. I'm naturally genetically gifted, and for the body that I had at the time, it was embarrassing. But it's all because of the habits and the things I was doing on a daily. Um, to get into the story, I was going out all the time, doing all this sort of stuff. My ego was so like honestly, I would say high, but at the same time it was really low. That's why I say my ego was high, my self-esteem was low. And that's why I was drinking so much. And it's actually funny. It's not funny, but we go out on Halloween and I was dressed as a prisoner and and I got slammed that night. I downed a bottle of tequila. I, a whole bottle by myself. Get to the bar. I'm buying stuff for everybody. My girlfriend's at the bar, but I'm not even like focused on her. I'm just doing my own shit like a drunk idiot. And eventually throughout the night, I basically black out. And I don't remember honestly most of it, but I remember I come out of the bar. She's in an altercation with this guy. He's talking this shit, which now looking back on it, like me and her have even talked about this. It's not her fault. Like, why would I put my energy towards something that like this dude was a loser, and like he was wanting attention, and I gave it to him. And why would I validate someone like that? Long story short, we get an altercation. I punch him across the face. Huge fight breaks out. People, I guess I was in the middle of his boys. They jump me. I get my face messed up. Cops are all over me. Cops are taking me to jail, telling me it's going to be an assault charge, telling me I assaulted the kid, telling me I did all this stupid shit that really didn't happen, but it's what it seemed like happened. And my friends were downtown, like in the area, and one person came to help me. One person out of probably 10. And that was honestly a really eye opening day for me. All these people that I thought, were my friends, cool with me, cared about me, nobody showed up in that moment. And, at the time, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And maybe they didn't think it was that big of a deal either. Maybe they still don't think it's a big deal. But I vividly remember being in that cop car and riding, with the cop, going to the jail, handcuffed, with a bloody nose, with a bloody eye, and thinking, like, I have became such a loser. Literally. my whole life, I've been a quote unquote good person, capable of doing good things. And I let my habits and my daily lifestyle drag me down to the point of I'm now looked at as a prisoner. And makes me emotional. I can remember getting to the jail, and I remember walking through, you know, like where they keep the inmates, like walking through all of them to the holding cell or whatever. And I remember looking around and being like, dude, these people that are in jail, like if you've been to a jail, these people are criminals, like actual criminals. They have done bad things. These are bad people. There's a reason they're locked up. I remember walking through and being like, dude, I'm not a bad person. Like, I'm not a bad person. I've let my habits and my lifestyle get so in the way of like who I am as a person deep down that I'm looked at as a bad person now. And I remember, they took my phone, they took my wallet, they took all my stuff, threw me in the holding cell. I remember he threw me a pair of, orange shoes, like, because you can't wear your shoes, like almost like whatever, jumpsuit or whatever. And I remember being like, this is real and this is actually happening. And they shut the door to the cell. I have no phone, and all I have is my drunk ass brain and my thoughts. And four fucking blank walls. And I remember just sitting there and being like, this is not my life. And for the first time in my life, like everything was out of my control. There wasn't one thing I could have done to get out of that cell. There wasn't one thing I could have said, one thing I could have like done at all to get out of that situation. And I remember feeling so helpless. And I was like, something has to change. Something has to change with who I'm hanging around, what I'm doing, how I'm doing, like my life. And it was an eye-opening night, to say the least. Jail is not cool. Being a criminal is not cool. And if you've actually been there and you've experienced it, you know that it is not the place for everybody, and it shouldn't be the place for everybody. I will never go back. I'll never, ever, ever sit and feel that helpless again in my life. Now, the crazy part about my testimony is my habits in my life really didn't even change that much for like 4 to 5 months after that. Like, I still was hanging around the bad people, doing the bad things, acting like honestly a fucking criminal would be. I'm surprised I didn't go back. And that summer ish, I kind of met a friend of mine who was a good person, and I moved out of that area, and I became, I was hanging around this guy a lot. He started taking me to Bible studies. We started working out like twice a day. Started posting content online. That's when I started real estate, and for the first time, I saw like what discipline actually looked like outside of like sports and like living with your parents and shit. And it really changed my life. I had a set schedule. I was waking up at 4:30 in the morning, you know, reading motivational things, quotes, following podcasts, stuff like that, growing, as a person. I remember we'd go to these Bible studies in Buckhead, and all these guys were like 30 years old. And they would talk about their testimonies of like their 20s and same type of people as me. This one dude was a cocaine addict. This one dude was a meth addict. All these guys, and they had their lives together now. And I remember that gave me so much hope, so much hope into what my future could be like, because they were fuck ups. Just the way I was sitting in that chair at the time, I was a fuck up. And I understood that I could grow out of this, and it's up to me. And from that point on, my outlook on life and my habits through my daily life pretty much changed. And I understood that the only person that's going to change my life and save my life is me. And time goes on, I carry that into real estate. I carry that into my job that I work now. And I still at the time was going out probably a year ago and stuff like that, but never to the extent of, that. I've never been as drunk as I was that night, and I will never be that drunk again. Because when you are not in the right frame of mind to even think for yourself, that's not even fun. how is that fun and how is that cool? You're lost. I mean, and the habits that I developed, self discipline, not lusting over every girl that you see, not, having so much pride that you have to fucking lay somebody out because they said the wrong thing to you. You know, all these things that, kill your ego, have respect about yourself, have modest fun, live a good life, get closer with God. When you have God and Jesus in your life, you start to live more like he did, and he's forgiving. He's selfish. Selfless. He wouldn't do the things I was doing at the time. And when I started living like that, that energy radiated and people felt that. And I felt a lot better. And it almost seemed like nothing was going right for me when I was doing all those bad things. Yet when I stopped and kind of started being a quote unquote humble person and having discipline and structure in my life, things started to fall into my lap. Like, I wouldn't say things are luck, but I would say God just gives you financial reward when you live, a humble, good life. And as the past year went on, 2024, I had structure and I had a good life and I had a good heart like I do now. And I made a lot of money. Like I said in the previous video, I broke it down. And all that changed from just my mindset and my, you know, want to be a better person. Because you can say you want to do this and say you want to do that, but if you don't want it in your heart and you don't act on it through your actions, then nothing really changes in your life. You know, in the span of like 14 months, I went from being a quote unquote, not even quote unquote, a substance abuser of everything, damaging my lungs, damaging my liver, damaging my body in general, my mindset, and going to jail, and then doing a complete 180 and having a structured life, getting back in the gym, caring about my body, caring about who I'm putting my time with, where my energy's going. And that's when life started to happen for me, not to me. And I started making money. My grandfather was a Corvette mechanic, like, his whole life. And so growing up, I always saw Corvettes and stuff like that. And I remember, like, I always wanted one my whole life, but beginning of last year, I was like, starting to make enough money where I was like, I can actually get one. And it was a big deal to me that I bought one before he dies, just so that I could show him that, I'm somebody. And maybe seeking that outside validation isn't the best, but it meant a lot to me, and it still does. So I worked for something, and I accomplished it. I set out a goal, and I got it done. Before I was 22, I was still 21. I sold $7 million in real estate. I bought a $90,000 Corvette at 21. My color of choice, baby blue. It was rapid blue. And it seemed so far out of reach. If I thought about that in that jail cell, that I was going to own that car in 1 year, that would seem like a literal dream. But your life can become a literal dream. You can live your dream through reality when you change your actions and your lifestyle and your habits. Again, nobody is going to change your life except you. Think about that. Nobody can hand you the keys to a $90,000 car except yourself. Nobody's going to co-sign on it for you. Nobody's going to give you the $35,000 down payment. Nobody's going to build your credit up to get that loan. Nobody's going to give you that money. Nobody's going to make you save up that money. Nobody's going to give you that opportunity. You have to change your life. You have to earn it yourself. You have to set out a goal, and you have to work for it every single day. I remember I literally have screenshots of that car from 2022, 2023, 2024 that I was going to get it. And I knew I was going to get it. But I backed up my wants with my actions. I didn't just say it. I did stuff every single day to get to that goal. And before I was 22, I bought that car. So I say all this to say, this is my testimony. This is my life. I used to be embarrassed of it. I'm not anymore. I don't know why I was ever in the first place, because everybody fucks up, and we're all human at the end of the day. But it's how you respond to your fuck ups that really prove who you are as a person and who you can be in the future. So take everything I said with a grain of salt. Relate to my testimony, because I'm sure we've all been in the same situation. I'm a normal kid from a normal area. I've fucked up more than you have. I've been in worse positions than you, and I have still found a way to crawl out of that hole, come closer to God, get back in the Word, change my ego, change my habits, and just become the version of yourself that you want to become. If you want something and you really want it that bad, you will change to go get it. I'm living proof of what can be done and what will be done when you put your mind towards something and you work for it on a every single day basis.